Right.
There's no path that's correct.
Comparative religion, sociology of religion.
And here it comes, because you didn't have comparative religion till 18th, 19th century.
Right. So
you didn't have psychology of religion, phenomenology of religion, all these addressing the problems raised right here.
Right. So the deity of the deities of classical theism, Yahweh, Christ, Allah, they're no different than our ancient Nordic, Germanic gods. They're no different than
the different guys
than Shiva or whatever.
Correct. There's no Yahweh, the Tetragrammaton,
right.
The origin of all reality. Because all the so-called creation myths in biblical criticism, Genesis first 7th chapter, all the creation myths, it's a myth that they're creation myths, because they're gods in conflict over territories of reality. There's never any affirmation of the absolute origin of the universe.
Right. It's Marduk taking on Tiamat, the ancient world.
You got it down pat. Has nothing to do with the Tetragrammaton, the absolute creation of the universe. So the discussion gets shifted away, and they think they're still talking about God, just making it sociologically relevant to a new audience. No, they're talking about a different thing.
Right. And then as Yaki would have said, that with the infinite Newtonian cosmic machine, you really lose a sense of universe, because the cosmos is just everything. It's everywhere in time and space.
There's no escape.
Yeah, there's no sense of unity.
Phenomenology. No, right. Correct. Except you do, there's quite a bit of unity, but you have no explanatory.
It's just this homogeneous nothing.
You can affirm, but not by experience, universal law of gravity. Yeah. You don't have any experience of the universal law of gravity or the universal law of anything. You ever had a high school class in physics that didn't give you a list of laws?
Yeah.
Who's ever seen them?
Yeah, no, you haven't.
You haven't seen them.
But you've experienced them.
Now, those are different things. Right. But you say, if you have to see it, how could you see the universe?
Right.
How could you see H2O? I don't know what's H2O. I've never seen any.
It's like seeing light, like you said, we see through light. Well, we live and dwell in the universe.
But how do you ever find out the structure of light? Or the space curve, like in Riemannian geometry and Einstein.
Yeah, it scales much larger than common sense.
Well, I see that space is being curved out there.
Right.
How do you explain an enormous object like the Earth running elliptically in orbit consistently with no apparent legs holding it up?
Yeah, there's no turtle.
Yeah, you had the turtle, but you had to be a whole big turtle. But that was just an effort to explain.
Or the idea of those little quantum leaps where there's no smooth motion of...
Who's ever seen Heidegger's, Heisenberg's indeterminate principle? Well, first of all, Heidegger's equations merely show that you don't have access. They're not indeterminate.
Oh, Heisenberg's equation, not Heidegger.
No, I mean Heisenberg.
Right. Yeah.
But you see, it's not a matter. You don't have any experience you don't have any experience out of his equations.
Right. But if you're a crew member of the Nautilus going around the world, powered by a nuclear submarine, nuclear reactor, then you are experiencing, what we've learned from extrapolating and.
Now, see, without extrapolation, I have no reason to believe he'd ever try to get out of the Earth's orbit.
No.
And nor would I have any experience how you get back.
No.
Because if you miss, I don't know what it is, but if you miss just a micro dot re-entering the Earth's atmosphere.
Right. You're lost forever.
Well, that seemed like precision to me. I don't know whether it would to you or not. But that isn't cosmic precision. I have no idea what anybody would mean by cosmic precision. And they do it. It's not a discussion about Darth Vader jumping.
And they do it with Newtonian physics.
No. And yet the Muslims are still operating, physicists, high-level people.
Right, brilliant people.
Brilliant people. They're still operating with Newtonian. Well, they can solve certain things with Newtonian physics, but they hate Einstein because it's too relativistic. They're totally deterministic, so they don't like the developments of
the 20th century.
No. Because in their fatalistic determinism, which is Allah, the will of Allah, whatever it is.
Right.
Well, if that's true, I don't know how you know that, but anyway.
They would believe that by faith, yeah.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
And everybody has faith, but so it's not a matter of no faith. I mean, that's absurd. Even people say they don't have it, they have it in something or someone. Well, anyway, those are the things unpacking in Western Christian education. And as long as Christian education in the schools, Harvard, Yale, Oxford, and Cambridge, the Sorbonne, all these great universities still in existence, were started by the church to produce educated ministry. And every one of them fell to the gun of all these developments, every one of them. And then, but you know this, when in the Presbyterian Church, when Machen was at Princeton, he locked on, they started, what seminary? You know?
It was a Princeton. They started, oh my goodness. Yeah, he was at Princeton, and I know he said, higher criticism says this, Bible says this, you go with the Bible.
Now,
but I can't remember the name of the seminary they started.
Well, I just started to tell you, my mind's going. But anyway, they started a seminary, and they started all these seminaries, like Fuller.
Yeah.
Fuller started for the same reason. Because the fundamentalist modernist controversy had taken place. And Charles E. Fuller was at least sharp enough to say we've got to have an educated source of education.
He's not blindsided by all this stuff.
Now, and they started, and like Henry, they dismissed Henry as a rationalist. Right. Well, Henry was not a rationalist, but I think Carl Henry's one of the most brilliant minds of the 20th century. But anyway, they started it in order to gain intelligent people, because they lost Princeton, because they lost Harvard, because they lost Yale. Yale was to create Episcopalians.
Right.
And Harvard, these were educated, but see, education was classical education, not education in these new developments.
Right, and they weren't equipped to deal with the challenge.
And as soon as these things enter the academy, then these great old institutions start succumbing to this.
Right.
Instead of, we can't quote the Bible anymore.
Right.
It's like Machen. Bible says this, liberalism says that, so liberalism wrong. Well, Machen's a brilliant man. He didn't get a doctorate at Harvard for the same reason that Rupert Foster didn't get a doctorate. They couldn't give a doctorate to a person that believed that. Well, he left Princeton and the liberal Presbyterian Church and started a seminary. And all those things happened, and they wanted to have the same quality of education without liberalism.
Right. Without these naturalistic assumptions.
Yeah, but without ever addressing them.
Yeah. Oh, that's the thing. They didn't address them.
No.
They wanted
They
to
just said, just like you said, Machen said, this is not Christianity, therefore this is wrong.
They dismissed them. They didn't deal with them.
Now, this is correct. See, we could sing Kumbaya and never say sure and go home and that. They dismissed them without even any awareness of understanding them, certainly not addressing them. It's a warning, I think, for our educational system, whether it's at Abilene or whether it's on the coast. A third to half of their faculty is postmodern.
That's the impression I've gotten from people that have been out
Well, it's heard. So I'll take it even if it's approximately correct.
So you've got Hegel, who has who introduced or brought in pantheism, panentheism, and trying to recover knowledge of God and the universe in response to Kant's first critique. And then from Hegel, Kierkegaard, we have Kierkegaard's response, as you say, it's existentialism.
Now, two things about existentialism. First of all, Kierkegaard was not well received for 50 years.
He was ahead of his time, I guess.
Yes. It was only deep in the 20th century when these things entered the arena that the bright so-called Christians were using Kierkegaard as a way out, not answering them.
Sure.
Happens repeatedly. And he says existentialism means the only thing that really exists is existence, not essence. You see, metaphysics, essence. Who's ever seen essence? Who's ever seen the essence of a tree? You only see trees.
Yeah.
You hear epistemology stands in all this discussion without ever bringing up the word or knowing what they're saying.
Right, it all has to do with that.
All has to do with that. You cannot. Logic and epistemology are foundational for any possibility of discussion. But in both logic and epistemology gets the same shaft.
Right.
It's socially constructed, so it's no help. But without that help, we're all just like you are in the postmodern multicultural relativism.
So, as you put here, Kierkegaard's existentialism. And again, he lived 1813 to 1856, not very long, but this form of relativism was addressing the supposed failure of objective truth and thus turned to radical subjectivism for verification.
Well, Kierkegaard turned inside.
Right.
Well, clearly you can't refute what's inside you.
Like that burning of the bosom.
Now,
Yeah.
what on earth is that except you need medicine?
Right, for heart reflux. Acid reflux. Yeah.
Like you got
Yeah.
acid reflux. No, that's exactly right. See, but he was really, his intention was positive.
Right.
He was trying, not answering. These people never answered what created the problem. Never did. These are geniuses. So can you imagine what most jacklegs did?
Right.
They just didn't pay any attention to them until you got the so-called neo-orthodox, you know, Barth, here, Bruner, and all these people coming in the 20s and 30s, you know that. And Barth's Romer brief, oh, that's another diversion, but 5 times in the history of the church, it's been the Roman epistle that's asked the church to get off its duh. Right. Augustine, Luther, and Wesleyan, and Karl Barth, and this situation. They found Romans as a way, this is Barth. He found Romans, none of those commentaries are good commentary.
Right.
But they're world changing. So I have to take that to be the case. But they're saying the biblical material is opposed to this, therefore. This is neo-orthodox. Well, I say it's neither neo nor orthodox. That's like the non-foundational, non-judgmental. They're judgmental and they're foundational. But it's all this development that comes, and the last data that I had, I can't check everything every day, but there were 1,500 evangelicals met in California 3 or 4 years ago. All of them claim to be committed to this neo-evangelical, away from the legalism,
Right.
you know. And they're non-judgmental. They didn't have any idea about these developments, how they get non-judgmental, yet they were neo-orthodox.
They were influenced by all this, they just weren't aware of it.
They were influenced by this and not aware. And I think it comes to Greens, it came to Christian education, it came to counseling, it comes to every category. The influence comes, don't understand it, don't need to understand it, but we got to reinterpret it. Well, it all stems from these forces. So it surely is that, but it's a great deal more than mere academic gymnastics.
So Kierkegaard's existentialism, he tried to say, again, like you said, there's I have never seen an essence of a tree or a watermelon, but I've seen both.
See, because
reality.
that's correct, because that is smacks like Aristotelian metaphysics. And after Kant, metaphysics is kaput.